In the 7th century in the bustling city of Medina, there's a guy named Zade Hypothesis who's got more to do with the Quran than you might have thought. Forget what you've heard in the mosque or read in textbooks, let's embark on a journey to explore the intriguing notion that Zade, not Muhammad, might just be the original author of the Quran. Who is Zade Hypothesis? Before we jump into the nitty-gritty, let's get to know our protagonist, Zade Hypothesis. Born in the heart of the Arabian Peninsula, Zade was no ordinary guy. He was the Prophet Muhammad's go-to scribe and played a pivotal role in documenting the revelations that later became the Quran. But what if his role wasn't just limited to writing down what Muhammad dictated? What if Zade had a more significant hand in crafting the holy book? We find out more as we progress in this video. The traditional narrative. The conventional narrative tells us that Muhammad, the last prophet of Islam, received divine revelations from the angel Gabriel over a period of 23 years. These revelations were memorized by Muhammad and later compiled into the Quran. However, historical records indicate that Zade Hypothesis was the chief scribe responsible for compiling the Quranic verses during the prophet's lifetime. Now, let's spice things up a bit. What if Zade wasn't just the humble scribe he's often portrayed as? What if he was, in fact, the creative genius behind the Quranic verses? Hold on to your hats, we're about to dive into some unconventional theories. The Zade Hypothesis. Picture this scenario: Zade Hypothesis, a young and intelligent man, is in close proximity to Muhammad, who's receiving these divine messages. Zade is not just jotting down what he hears, he's absorbing it, contemplating it, and maybe even adding a bit of his own flair to the mix. Proponents of the Zade hypothesis argue that Zade, being highly educated, might have had a more significant role in crafting the Quranic verses than history acknowledges. They point to his linguistic prowess, his deep understanding of various languages, and his literary skills as evidence that he wasn't just a passive recorder of revelations. Zade's linguistic expertise. One of the most compelling arguments in favor of Zade's authorship is his linguistic expertise. Zade was known for his mastery of several languages, including Arabic, Hebrew, and Aramaic. His proficiency in these languages could have enabled him to weave intricate and eloquent verses, making the Quran the linguistic marvel that it is. Supporters of the Zade hypothesis suggest that Zade's linguistic prowess might explain the sophisticated nature of the Quranic verses, which some argue surpasses Muhammad's known linguistic abilities. Could it be that Zade, with his linguistic finesse, played a more active role in shaping the Quranic text? Historical context and influences. To understand the Zade hypothesis better, let's zoom in on the historical context. The Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century was a melting pot of cultures, religions, and influences. Zade, being well-versed in various languages, would have been exposed to diverse traditions, philosophies, and religious doctrines. Proponents of the Zade hypothesis argue that this exposure could have influenced the content and style of the Quran. They suggest that Zade, drawing from his vast knowledge, might have incorporated elements from different cultural and religious traditions to create a text that spoke to a broad audience. The compilation process. Traditional accounts assert that Zade was tasked with compiling the Quranic verses into a single book after the death of Muhammad. However, what if Zade's involvement in the compilation process was more than just putting together what he had transcribed? Supporters of the Zade hypothesis propose that during the compilation process, Zade might have had the opportunity to refine and shape the verses further. This could explain why the Quran, despite being revealed over more than 2 decades, exhibits a remarkable linguistic consistency throughout its chapters. Critics and counterarguments. Of course, not everyone is on board with the Zade hypothesis. Critics argue that it undermines the central tenet of Islamic belief, that the Quran is the literal word of God revealed to Muhammad. They contend that questioning the authorship of the Quran challenges the foundation of Islamic faith. Moreover, historical records indicate that Zade was a devout companion of the Prophet Muhammad, and questioning his integrity raises ethical concerns. Critics argue that Zade, as a close confidant of Muhammad, would not have betrayed the trust placed in him. So, where does this leave us? The Zade hypothesis is undoubtedly a contentious and provocative idea that challenges the traditional narrative of the Quran's authorship. Whether you find it fascinating or sacrilegious, exploring alternative perspectives is a crucial aspect of intellectual inquiry. As we navigate the complex tapestry of history and religion, one thing remains certain: the Quran continues to be a source of inspiration, guidance, and contemplation for millions around the world. Whether the verses were divinely revealed to Muhammad, with Zade faithfully transcribing, or if Zade played a more intricate role in crafting the text, the Quran's impact on human history and culture is undeniable. In the spirit of open dialogue and intellectual curiosity, let's keep the conversation going. After all, questioning, exploring, and seeking knowledge are timeless endeavors that bridge the gaps between belief and skepticism.